The stars above Lyra 7 glimmered like scattered gems in a dark velvet sky. Elias Carter stared from the cockpit of his ship, the Odyssey, feeling the mix of excitement and nervousness that always came before a new exploration. Lyra 7 was unlike any planet humans had studied before. Its skies shimmered with soft green auroras, and its forests glowed faintly in the dark. Filled with creatures that seemed more light than matter, Elias had trained for years for this mission, but nothing could have prepared him for the overwhelming beauty of the planet. He adjusted his helmet and stepped out onto the soft, luminous grass, immediately noticing the way it reacted to his touch. The plants shifted their colors slightly as he brushed his hand across them, as if acknowledging his presence. He smiled. Humans had a way of connecting with the world around them, and he hoped that connection would help him understand Lyra-7. From above, the Luminae observed him. They were tall, elegant beings with translucent skin that reflected the light of their world, and eyes that glowed with a soft inner radiance. Seraphina, one of the planet's leading scientists, watched Elias with careful curiosity. Humans were unusual visitors. While others came with rigid procedures and technological superiority, Elias moved with wonder and attention. Noticing details that most beings ignored, Seraphina had been trained to observe. Not to feel, but she could not ignore the small acts of care that Elias displayed. He crouched to untangle a small glowing vine that had wrapped itself around a rock. When he did, he whispered softly, "There you go. Don't worry, little one." To the Luminae, words like that were unnecessary. The creatures communicated without them. Yet the emotion in his voice was undeniable. Her curiosity grew. She floated closer, unseen, her radiant form blending with the light of the forest. Humans were different. Their emotions were strong and visible. They were unpredictable, but in a way that was fascinating. She wondered why she felt a strange warmth as she watched him. It was confusing an emotion she was not trained to experience. Elias wandered deeper into the forest, documenting the plants and animals with a mixture of scientific tools and simple observation. He reached a glimmering lake that reflected the sky like a mirror. Small creatures, part plant and part animal, hovered above the water, moving in patterns he had never seen. He knelt and extended a hand. One of the creatures approached, circling his fingers before touching them lightly. Elias laughed softly. "Hello there," he said. "You're beautiful," Seraphina, observing from a distance, felt a tug in her chest. That word beautiful should have meant nothing to her, yet it resonated. She had heard humans speak, but they attached meaning in ways Luminae did not. She studied him carefully, analyzing his every move. Yet every analysis seemed to lead her to a single question. Why did she care? Suddenly, a soft vibration ran through the ground. Elias's attention shifted immediately. "That's unusual," he murmured, moving toward the source. Seraphina followed silently, her form blending with the glowing environment. The vibration increased as they approached a grove where the trees formed a natural dome. Within, a cluster of bioluminescent plants were struggling to maintain their glow, as if something was disturbing their energy. Elias crouched again, examining the plants. "The energy flow is off," he said, scanning the roots with a handheld device. "I think a storm underground is affecting them." Seraphina floated closer, her curiosity overriding her usual caution. She observed him work, fascinated by his method. Humans did not rely only on logic. They relied on intuition and sometimes instinct. Elias touched the roots gently, listening to the hum of energy through his fingertips. Then, with careful guidance, he rearranged a few stones and applied small amounts of water from his pack. The plants pulsed brighter, their glow returning. Seraphina felt a wave of something unfamiliar. Relief? Happiness? Perhaps both. The Luminae considered intervention without logic to be reckless, yet Elias's actions had healed the grove without a single misstep. She realized she admired his humanity, not just the kindness he showed, but the way he trusted his instincts. "You did that with your hands?" she asked, unable to suppress her curiosity. Elias looked up, surprised to see her. "Oh, I didn't know anyone was here," he said warmly. "I'm Elias. Are you?" Serafina hesitated. Naming herself was not common practice for Lumine when interacting with humans. Yet something in his friendly tone encouraged her. "I am Serafina," she said softly. "Serafina," he repeated, as if tasting the sound. "It's nice to meet you." The word carried more warmth than she expected. She found herself floating closer. "You do not follow the usual procedures," she noted. "Most humans are careful, rigid. You are different." Elias smiled. "I guess I like to learn by feeling things, not just reading them, I think. I like to understand with my heart, too." Her chest felt tight at his words. Heart. Such a simple word, but it seemed to resonate across species, across worlds. She wanted to understand that part of him, the part that made him so human. Hours passed as they explored the grove together. Elias pointed out creatures, gently interacted with them, and described his thoughts and feelings. Serafina began to ask questions, not as a scientist, but as someone trying to understand him. She discovered that his empathy was not a weakness, it was a strength. It allowed him to see the living world in ways she never could. A soft chime interrupted their work. A nearby panel lit up, signaling a small storm approaching the planet's northern region. Elias frowned. If the storm hits that area, it could disrupt the energy flow for the larger ecosystem. Serafina hesitated. "It may be dangerous." The usual response is to wait for the storm to pass. Intervention is illogical. Elias shook his head. "Sometimes we have to trust more than logic." He extended his hand to her. "Will you help me?" She looked at him. Lumine were trained to avoid unpredictability, to follow only what was safe. Yet the pull she felt, the curiosity, the warmth, was impossible to ignore. She reached out. "I will try," she said. Together, they moved to the storm-threatened area. Elias guided her to position protective barriers around sensitive plants. Serafina realized that working with him required a different kind of awareness. She had to feel the environment as he did. At first it was uncomfortable, but soon she began to notice subtle patterns. Small signs that the storm's energy could be redirected. Hours later, the storm passed, leaving the area intact. The plants shimmered brightly, stronger than before. Elias looked at Serafina and grinned. "We did it." Serafina found herself smiling back, an emotion she had never thought she would embrace. "Yes," she admitted softly. "We did it." As night fell, the auroras above the forest seemed to shine brighter. Serafina floated above the glowing trees, watching Elias move among the plants with effortless care. She felt a stirring in her chest, a warmth that she could not name. Humans had a way of reaching into hearts, even those that were starborn and logical, and she realized she had been reached. "Elias," she began hesitantly, "your humanity is unlike anything I have known. It is fascinating." He looked up, his eyes reflecting the glowing sky. "And you, Serafina, your curiosity, your light, it's inspiring." Neither spoke for a while, content to simply exist in the luminous night, sharing a connection neither fully understood. Serafina realized that for the first time, she wanted more than observation. She wanted understanding, and perhaps something closer than that. But a soft vibration in the air suddenly drew her attention. A signal cosmic and unknown pulsed faintly, sending ripples through the planet's energy field. Seraphine's chest tightened. She had never experienced such a signal. She sensed that it carried importance beyond the grove, beyond Lyra 7 itself. Elias noticed her tension. "Do you feel that?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "It is something new, something we must understand." She turned to him, searching for guidance, and realized that for the first time, she did not want to face the unknown alone. Elias smiled gently, and without words. They both knew they would face whatever came together, as the stars above Lyra 7 sparkled endlessly. Seraphine's starborn heart felt something extraordinary, a stirring of emotion awakened by humanity. She did not fully understand it yet, but she wanted to. And with Elias by her side, she felt ready to discover it. The days on Varelia grew longer and warmer as Lyra settled into her new life. The initial struggle to survive had passed, but a new challenge emerged, learning to truly live alongside the Alari. Lyra knew that survival alone was not enough. She wanted to belong, to understand, and to contribute to this world in a meaningful way. Every morning, she rose with the twin suns, the light shimmering through the crystalline forests. She would check her shelter, repair what had been damaged by the storms, and then explore the land. Kellyan was always nearby, moving gracefully, its colors soft and welcoming. Lyra began noticing subtle patterns in Kellyan's behavior, almost as if it were trying to teach her something beyond the obvious. One morning, while walking along a glowing river, Lyra discovered a strange plant she had not seen before. Its petals were translucent, and they shimmered with soft colors. When touched, it emitted gentle vibrations, almost like a heartbeat. Lyra carefully experimented, recording her observations. To her amazement, the vibrations seemed to respond to her own pulse and gestures. She realized this plant could act as a bridge for communication, not just between her and the Ilari, but between minds in a way that transcended words. Over the next several days, she worked to create a small interface using the glowing plants. She arranged petals and patterns that could mimic the Ilari's light signals. Kellyan watched attentively, sometimes nudging a petal with a soft pulse. Slowly, they discovered a rhythm, a way to exchange thoughts and ideas. Lyra felt a thrill of discovery. She had not only survived Veralia, but she was now beginning to understand it on a level few humans ever could. Meanwhile, the Ilari began trusting her completely. They followed her explorations, sometimes helping by moving obstacles or indicating paths. Lyra taught them small tasks, like arranging crystal panels to capture sunlight or directing water flows to nourish plants. In turn, the Ilari shared their knowledge of Verelia's energy currents, teaching her how to harvest more power from the glowing rivers without harming the delicate ecosystem. The exchange of knowledge created a sense of unity, an unspoken bond that deepened with every passing day. Lyra found herself thinking more and more about Kellyan. It was no longer just a companion. It was a friend, a teacher, and perhaps even something closer. Their connection was expressed through shared understanding, synchronizing colors and pulses, and a quiet recognition of each other's thoughts. Lyra felt warmth whenever Kellyan's light brightened near her, as though the planet itself approved of their growing bond. One afternoon, the sky darkened unexpectedly. Lyra's instruments detected an approaching storm, stronger than any before. The twin suns dimmed behind swirling clouds of violet and gray. She quickly called to the Ilari, signaling with her light patterns. Kellyan responded immediately, gathering the others and leading them toward a natural cave system she had discovered weeks before. Lyra's heart pounded. She had prepared for this, but the storm was unpredictable. She had to act fast. Working together, they reinforced the cave's entrances with crystal fragments and vines, creating a stable shelter. When the storm arrived, it was like nothing Lyra had experienced. Winds whipped through the valleys, rain fell in glowing torrents, and the ground trembled under the force of the storm. Yet inside the cave, Lyra felt safe, surrounded by the Ilari and Kellyan's calming light. They pulsed in harmony, silent reassurance that they were all in this together. After hours of howling wind and glowing rain, the storm passed. Lyra stepped outside and looked over the valley. Crystals were scattered, and some forests had shifted, but life endured. The Ilari gathered near her, their lights pulsing in celebration. Kellyan floated close, brushing against her shoulder, its colors vibrant and warm. Lyra felt a deep sense of joy and accomplishment. She had survived the storm, guided others, and had strengthened the bond with beings who were truly extraordinary. In the following weeks, Lyra focused on building a sustainable habitat, not just for herself, but for the Ilari. She used her engineering skills to create small energy collectors, water channels, and safe resting areas that blended seamlessly with the natural landscape. The Ilari helped, contributing their knowledge of energy flows and light patterns. Together, they created a place where humans and Ilari could coexist without harming the planet. Lyra also explored deeper connections with Kellyan. They experimented with the glowing plants, learning to exchange more complex thoughts and feelings. It was not just communication, it was understanding. Lyra realized that love could exist in many forms, and in her bond with Kellyan, it was expressed as trust, respect, and the joy of shared discovery. She no longer felt lonely or alien on this strange world. One evening, Lyra and Kellyan climbed a high cliff overlooking a valley filled with glowing rivers and crystal forests. The twin moons rose, casting silver and violet light across the landscape. Lyra took a deep breath and felt a profound sense of belonging. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, the crash landing, the struggles to survive, the storms, and the long hours of observation and learning. Every step had led her to this moment. Kellyan floated beside her, its light pulsing gently. Lyra reached out and touched it, feeling a warmth that was both comforting and exhilarating. She realized that love was not always about words or human gestures. It could be a connection of minds and hearts, a shared understanding that transcended species. Lyra smiled. She had come to Varelia alone, but she had not stayed alone. She had learned from this world, grown with it, and formed bonds that were deeper than she had ever imagined. She had survived not only by her own strength, but by embracing the wisdom, guidance, and friendship of beings very different from herself. The days that followed were filled with exploration, learning, and gentle adventures. Lyra mapped new areas of the planet, discovering glowing caves, floating crystal formations, and rare plants that hummed with energy. She shared these discoveries with the Eilari, and they, in turn, taught her about the subtle rhythms of Varelia, the movement of the glowing rivers, the timing of the wind currents, and the patterns of the clouds that hinted at coming storms through all of this. Her bond with Kellyan grew stronger. It was no longer just a teacher-student relationship, nor simply a companionable friendship. It was a connection of understanding, shared thought, and unspoken affection. Lyra found that she looked forward to every moment with Kellyan, every shared discovery, every pulse of color that expressed its thoughts. One day, Lyra discovered a rare plant that seemed to amplify thought patterns. When she placed her hands on its petals, she felt a rush of insight, ideas flowing freely, almost as if the plant could read her mind and enhance it. Kellyan mirrored her excitement, its lights pulsing in a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Together, they experimented, creating intricate patterns of light and energy that communicated feelings, ideas, and dreams. It was in that moment that Lyra realized the full meaning of her journey. She had not just survived Varelia, she had learned to thrive, to connect, and to love. She had built a home, created bonds, and discovered that life, even on a strange and alien world, could be rich, vibrant, and deeply fulfilling. As the twin moons rose once more over the glowing rivers, Lyra and Kellyan stood on a cliff, watching the land stretch out beneath them. The planet shimmered with light, and the gentle hum of the glowing forests filled the air. Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more storms, more challenges, and more discoveries, but she was ready. She had found not only survival, but a home, a companion, and a connection that transcended the boundaries of species. Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, "This is my world now. I am part of it, and it is part of me. And together, we will face whatever comes next." Kellyan floated closer, its colors shining brightly. In its own way, it seemed to echo her words, a promise of companionship, trust, and the quiet power of love. Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest that went beyond happiness. She had survived, she had learned, and she had won something far greater than mere survival. She had won connection, understanding, and love. And as the light of the twin moons reflected off the crystalline forests, Lyra felt a sense of peace, unlike any she had known. On this strange and wondrous world, she had found not just life, but meaning. And in that meaning, she had found joy.